Rusty Towers was born. Why would anyone stay in a hotel in Bikini Bottom?
Why are you watching this, James?
What do you mean?
It melts your brain.
So what should I be watching?
Well, James, I just watched a super cool video about the search for a sustainable solution to fueling the developing world with firewood and other kinds of biomass.
Well, what's the developing world?
Just watch it.
Throughout human history, technological progress has been accompanied by changes in energy demands and how societies meet them. We have continually searched for fuels with higher energy content, transitioning from wood and agrarian societies to fossil fuels like coal and petroleum with the rise of electricity and the Industrial Revolution. You can see this transition in this graph showing the United States' various energy sources over time, with nuclear, hydroelectric, and other renewable sources growing most recently.
Developing countries, on the other hand, have not witnessed the same transition from fuel to fuel. Most LDCs have continued to rely on firewood as their primary source of energy, as well as other kinds of biomass, such as animal waste and crop residues. According to the World Health Organization, 52% of the world's population uses solid fuels, but this percentage varies widely between countries and regions, ranging from 77% in sub-Saharan Africa to 74% in Southeast Asia to 16% in Latin America. In contrast, solid fuel use falls to the less than 5% mark in most industrialized countries. According to another researcher, in total, developing countries account for roughly 99% of the world's biomass fuel use.
Such heavy reliance on the use of firewood and other biomass in countries like Nigeria brings with it numerous serious problems that serve to inhibit their development. The first of these is its detrimental health effects on the population using the fuel. According to a professor in Turkey, women are primarily responsible for energy procurement and management, giving energy poverty a particular gender bias. They frequently must put their personal safety at risk walking on long and dangerous trails to isolated areas for the wood.
When they aren't gathering fuel, these women spend most of their day cooking and raising their children indoors, where they breathe in toxic fumes such as carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, and small solid particles.
According to researchers in India, for example, where biomass supplies 75% of domestic energy usage, biomass fuel exposure is closely related to the burden of diseases such as respiratory infections, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, lung cancer, pulmonary tuberculosis, and asthma. In total, they estimate that nearly 2 million deaths per year are attributable to solid fuel use, with more than 99% of these deaths occurring in developing countries. The deaths of these women and children directly impede our progress towards accomplishing the Millennium Development Goals 4 and 5, reducing child mortality rates and improving maternal health. You can see in this heat map, which measures rates of deaths that are attributable to solid fuel use from country to country, that the countries most affected are found in sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. Environmental degradation serves as another major problem arising from the developing world's dependency on biomass fuels. Researchers estimate the annual wood consumption in Nigeria, for example, is between 51 and 88 million cubic meters, 80% of which is utilized as fuel wood mainly for cooking in the rural communities. They additionally discovered major inefficiency in fuel collection, with less than half of felled trees actually harvested for lumber. The other half were simply left in the forest to rot. As a result, an average of 3% of Nigeria's forest cover decreases each year. These numbers are exacerbated when taking into account a growing population and future demand for these resources. Furthermore, the burning of biomass releases high levels of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, contributing to the growing effects of climate change.
In considering the alternatives to biomass fuels, it's useful to evaluate fuel in terms of an energy ladder. The energy ladder separates fuel sources into 3 rungs based on their efficiency and environmental impact. Wood and other biomass fuels constitute the bottom rung. Transition fuels such as coal and kerosene make up the middle, and petroleum, gas, and electricity make up the top. Theory suggests that as income levels rise, the individual moves up the ladder by choosing superior fuels. The affordability of biomass fuels for citizens in less developed countries is largely the reason it still accounts for 18% of global energy consumption. Struggling families in countries like Nigeria rely entirely on wood for energy simply because it's free. The $110 price tag on liquid petroleum gas stoves makes them unaffordable for many families. The subsequent cost of fuel tank refills also increase the appeal of traditional fuel sources. Until funding can be found to subsidize the purchase of LPG stoves, countries should consider improved wood-burning stoves as a potential solution. The benefits of improved wood-burning stoves are twofold. Not only do they burn fuel more efficiently, but they also reduce the risk of disease by channeling smoke out of the kitchen with chimneys.
Forest management is also a practical solution to the issue of using wood as fuel. Deforestation in countries like Nigeria is inefficient due to the felled wood left behind after logging. This material makes excellent feedstock for charcoal production and can greatly reduce the rate of deforestation if hauled out. Utilizing such materials would be an easy way for developing countries to better sustain their national forests. But forest management and improved wood-burning stoves are only palliative measures on the road to reducing biomass fuel consumption. The transition from wood to gas consumption in developing nations requires a deeper understanding of the cultures and customs affected. Take Guatemala, for example. Though the country's large population of migrants has served to greatly increase gross national income, 98% of the families prosperous enough to afford LPG stoves still use wood as their primary source of fuel. The slow and steady burn of wood lends itself to the preparation of beans and corn, staples of the Guatemalan diet. Those surveyed for a study on Guatemalan fuel consumption said their food tasted better when cooked with wood. We see here that the reasons are cultural rather than economic. The transition away from biomass energy in Guatemala and countries like it requires a nuanced solution. A number of promising innovations cater to the customs of such LDCs. One example is known as the Wonder Bag. Based on a proven method of heat retention cooking, food is placed in the bag once it's started to cook. The closed bag then acts as a portable slow cooker, retaining heat from the wood to finish the cooking process. This vastly reduces the amount of fuel needed for cooking, while allowing users to prepare food in their traditional, time-consuming fashion. Another culturally sensitive innovation is a more efficient cook stove designed by Berkeley professors in response to an epidemic of sexual attacks on women refugees collecting wood in Darfur.
So, when it's all said and done, what kind of impact will this stove really have? Well, it obviously decreases the women's exposure to violence, but it also dramatically reduces the expense and labor of fuel wood gathering. And for the families who've resorted to selling food rations in order to buy wood, having a more efficient stove frees up cash for other necessities.
The development of these inventions is invaluable for less developed and developed countries alike. In addition to ameliorating the environmental risks for people in LDCs, it reduces the volume of greenhouse gases poured into the atmosphere each year. The Earth's atmosphere is of concern to all of us, as it governs weather patterns and dictates the health of the environment. Improvements in fuel-burning technology are long-term and global investments. If we give them the priority they deserve, we'll be reaping the returns for generations to come.